Maybe don't know.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, 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 this time power, this time to build power, this time to build power, this time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 179 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. I've said this a bunch of times recently because things are crazy around here, but I'm not going to go on and on in this intro. In fact, I just want to get into this conversation because this is an important one. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and if you are a longtime listener, you'll remember Joslynn Corredor from episode 106. We talked about her experience with breast cancer, having a double mastectomy, and the identity crisis of sorts that goes along with that, especially when you're an athlete and your identity, your sport is stripped away from you and you're not sure how you're going to make it back. That can be devastating. And Joslynn's experience and our conversation on the podcast led her to want to work with women having a similar experience. And it makes me incredibly proud to have been a minuscule part of getting that story out there and helping Joss find this mission that she's on now. She's recently started a GoFundMe for scholarships for women to train with her who are also experiencing similar things that Joss did with breast cancer, with identity, and helping them find their athletic identity again. It's so important. I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of this conversation, to be a part of this story again. And I'm just going to jump into this thing so that you can learn more about it. There will be links after you're done listening so that you can donate to the scholarship program to help women train with Joss. There will also be a number of links for more information on breast cancer and breast cancer awareness right there in your show notes in your pocket supercomputer. All right, let's get into it.
Maybe don't know.
And that's when I decided to do the grant program so I could allow 5 women to get training that couldn't afford it.
First, though, how did COVID affect what you're doing in Boulder? You know, I got some calls, especially the guys from the Thundercling called me and asked me how coaching was going for me. And we just happened to be in a really good situation where we were already all remote anyway. So I was like, well, we're perfectly set up, but I'm definitely thinking about these other coaches who are based in gyms and, you know, have clients that come and see them regularly. And if you're based in a gym, do you even have the contact info for all of your clients? You know, things like that. So how did it affect you?
I think that's a really, really good point. I mean, I actually had a chunk of people reach out to me over social media wanting to know how or, you know, what I was doing. Same thing. I think everyone was kind of either worried about each other or almost wanting to know how they could learn from someone else. I was hybrid already, so I just essentially kept my clients and then just had them do virtual training, which was awesome. I was really freaked out. And
freaked out by like the possibility of losing all the clients?
Yeah, and I wouldn't have blamed them. You know, a lot of people were in a pinch for money, and the reality is training is not a necessity.
Yeah, it's a luxury item.
It's a luxury, yeah. And so I mean, yeah, I definitely was thankful that I was hybrid and I was able to just kind of continue on with those clients. And I actually ended up doing better,
Yeah.
which was super
Good.
weird. And I felt guilty, honestly. I didn't have to pay gym fees, right? Because everyone was then virtual,
Right.
which you
Yep.
did the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was super thankful. And I did have other friends that were trainers and strength coaches who struggled, and
Yeah.
a lot of people who had to go on unemployment. So I think it was a really good time if you were in the right place, already had things set up, and then if you were in school, if you're in school already but not graduating yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The guilt. It's, I felt a little bit of that as well. I made this really conscious decision to not try to upsell people during that time because we were already set up so well. I'm like, let the other coaches make the money. I don't want to upsell. But then I also wanted to give people a place where they could just get workouts. So we put a free section of our app for people to use.
Yeah.
And it got so busy that I was like, are we doing the wrong thing by giving people this free thing they can do? We're not giving them any instruction. We're just like, these are some workouts you can do. Mm-hmm. So I was always trying to push people toward other coaches. If they had a lot of questions, I'm like, you'd be better off with a coach. And we're packed. So here are these other coaches. But that guilt is real when you start doing better in a time when a lot of people are in a crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. I totally forgot that I ended up, I did, Instagram Live workout videos.
Yeah.
So that became fairly popular and I tried to be really consistent. And I feel like I was just busting my ass the whole time during quarantine because what else was I going to do? I didn't feel like we could go climbing.
Yeah.
There was also a lot of weird stigma with that, especially in Boulder because, can you go outside? What's the right thing to do?
I stopped climbing outside even though I'm in this tiny town more out of like solidarity with my clients and with all the other climbers because I'm like, I could totally drive 10 minutes down the road and go bouldering and I will see no one. I don't see anyone when it's the busy season. Mm-hmm. So I could, but I'm not gonna. And
there's this weird ownership too. So some people, depending on the area, felt that they owned a certain area and didn't want anyone but locals to go there. And it just all got really weird. So the best thing I felt was to just not go. Mm-hmm. We did at the time live right by this awesome trail. So I felt that it was okay to go trail running. Yeah. So I ended up running a lot more and then really just doing a lot of HIIT workouts and trying to offer free classes. But yeah, it does get tricky because then you end up, how many people are doing the free classes?
Right.
Are they going to even get hurt? You can't see what they're doing.
Right.
Is that the correct thing for them to be doing? I don't really teach group classes that much anymore. Mm-hmm. I just started doing some virtual, but I can see everyone.
Right.
And so during the virtual classes, I will actually correct people as they're doing it because you can see their little screen.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think I would ever do, 30 people on one because then they would be this tiny little block. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it was a tricky world for a while, and something that came out of it that I was really excited to see was you had set up a scholarship program for to pay for people to train with you. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I actually had this woman that I would say it's thanks to her for me going forward with this. Mm-hmm. She wanted to get training, and specifically because I do free consultations with people, when I was talking to her, she really described wanting to work with me because there are other nonprofits that offer a similar thing, and she actually had been working with them, but it got cut off because of COVID.
And what is this thing that she was looking for?
Oh, yes. I need to get better at that. So we
all need to get better at that.
Yeah, she wanted training, and she was currently getting a scholarship for this nonprofit is called Barbell for Boobs. And so the nonprofit offers
That's a great name.
Yeah, they were more CrossFit, and they would also offer if someone couldn't afford gym memberships after a double mastectomy. And I really loved that idea, but I mean, I am nowhere near able to,
right?
Absolutely. Be able to allow someone to do that. But it did get my juices flowing and ideas flowing. And talking to this woman, she wanted to work with me because she saw that I did more outdoor activities and it wasn't necessarily CrossFit.
Right.
And I don't know, it's funny when you think of someone wanting to train with you, why do they want to train with you? I would say I still have a lot of imposter syndrome with people because I think that everything is out on the internet. Like you can just find anything you want.
Yeah.
But she specifically came to me on social media wanting to, be able to hike again and maybe try climbing, maybe run more, do all these outdoor activities, and saw that I had gone through it and am doing all these things.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, stronger than I was beforehand. And she then told me that she lost her scholarship because of COVID and said she wished that she could do it, asked me how much I cost. And she currently is in school, isn't making that much, couldn't afford it. So it just broke my heart. And I just really wanted to help her. And so I told her, let me get back to you. I have an idea. Let me just see how this goes. And that's when I decided to do the grant program so I could allow 5 women to get training that couldn't afford it. And I currently just picked those 5 women.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
There are a lot of directions I want to go with this. But first, let me say the imposter syndrome, and I've probably said this on this podcast before, I really believe is a good thing. I think if you believe you have it figured out, like if you think you're the expert, then you've stopped learning and you're probably getting passed by the people who are still learning. And it's not going to be long before you're obsolete. I think that imposter syndrome keeps us learning, keeps us hustling. And you're right. It all is out there on the internet. That's not why people come to you. People come to you because they connect with you, they relate to you in some way, and your story is unique and it's powerful and it's inspiring to people, and that's why they're seeking you out. So in terms of am I the best coach I can be and I have a little imposter syndrome? Absolutely, run with that. But when it's, am I this special person that people are reaching out to me for a good reason? No imposter syndrome there, because you absolutely are. And I think it's amazing that you took this one story and then created this thing based off of it. And that thing is growing essentially, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I did not expect it to, I picked 3 months for 5 women. So each woman would get 3 months of training. And I just picked the price that I cost. And I really wasn't sure how it was going to go. I kind of threw it out there and would see what would stick, But it ended up hitting its goal in 2 weeks, which was awesome. And it was honestly really inspiring right after Coral Cliffs had done hers.
Right.
And, or Abby. And, also part of that, I do have to thank Abby, because Abby, I had talked to her beforehand and I had told her that I also felt like I didn't have a voice right when all the Black Lives Matter stuff started happening.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of, I didn't know what to do. I kind of backed off of social media for about a month. And I mean, you probably feel this way too. I mean, social media can be an exact thing for marketing for your business, especially in the coaching training world. So I backed off and ended up talking to a few women that then said, Joss, you are a woman of color, and by you backing off, like, I was following you. I was trying to see, you were inspiring, but I didn't feel like I had the voice. So I also backed off. But then when this other woman had asked and needed help, I then wanted to help. So I found the only way was going to be starting something, which kind of broke that bubble a little bit, which was nice. But yeah, there's so much going on now.
I think it's really important to have that like mission, to have this clear goal that clear in air quotes, because we all know that a clear goal can become something totally different down the road, and you have to be ready for that and available for that. But especially in a time where there are mixed signals flying around and everybody is the like de facto expert. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. We really have to sit back and kind of take stock of our own beliefs, ideas, and move forward with how we think our platform is best serving those ideas. It's hard to do in a world that moves as fast and as aggressively as Instagram does, or especially as Facebook does,
Yeah.
So, I mean, stepping back isn't a bad thing, but I'm glad you found the mission that allowed you to step back in and say, here's some good I can do. Here's where my voice is needed. And here's what I'm going to do with it.
Totally. And I'm super thankful for, one, that woman that needed it and said, hey, Joss, I need you, or I want this. And other women saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, I was watching you. Because you never know. You don't.
Totally.
You can never see, or you don't necessarily get the feedback. Even when I was doing the virtual classes, I had absolutely no idea who was watching the whole time, because, when you're on the other side, you can't see who's watching, and which was also hard. You're teaching a class to no one. So, I mean, I then went forward with making the grant and did a GoFundMe and created an application and had 25 women, And
are all of these women who are applying cancer survivors, mastectomy, double mastectomy? What's the...
so it's a range. I think, I had women apply who, are still going through chemo and radiation. And then I had people who were similar to me and who had done it prophylactically, so doing it more preventatively. And it was hard. It was really hard to choose. I actually gave myself a deadline, put it out there. I was like, yes, this is going to help me choose when I will choose these women. I ended up having multiple times to go on the internet and say, sorry, I still haven't chosen, even though if I had this deadline, because I was having such a hard time deciding.
Sure.
And
I get that.
And then the guilt came back, because I wanted to choose all of them, but I couldn't, I can't, I also have to pay for food and survive. So, I could only pick 5, and it was really hard. But it was really cool to see that there was a need for it. So it only inspired me to want to put out more. So I'm kind of thinking of things I can do for this coming up month in October, since it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And hopefully we can, have another round of women join too. But some of the women have started, and it's so awesome. I mean, it's just different. I love working with climbers. Some women have applied that were climbers too. And Yeah, it's just different. It's a different perspective too.
Yeah.
So,
Where are these women hearing about you from? Do you know? Like, how did they find you?
Yeah. So there is this nonprofit called the Breasties, and they were awesome to share about the program. I pretty much, it was tricky with nonprofits because when I was asking for the grants for people to donate to basically create this scholarship for the different women, I didn't know this, but when you ask a nonprofit if like they can share it, they actually really can't because they're doing their own thing. So,
right.
And I mean, it was so much learning as I did this. So I then stopped kind of asking people until I had the application ready. And then I asked people to share the application, and that made a lot more sense once I had gotten the money to just give away the scholarships, and then people could apply and go forth from there.
Did most of the money come from the climbing community in this first round of grants?
Honestly, I would say it was maybe 30%. Yeah, it wasn't a huge percentage. I think I thought I would hit hard with the climbers because I felt that was more of where I was placed. But there's a chunk of people that you just never know in this world. Like, it was anonymous and it would be $200. Like, I have no idea where that came from. And
right. Sure.
I don't know, and you just think of people being weird in this pandemic, and then that happens. And it's just a really nice person, Yeah. So you have no idea.
And I think it was a time that, sort of, it brought out the best and the worst in people.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
And I saw so many people becoming philanthropists, becoming helpful, caring in a way that I hadn't seen them do before. And it's, it's interesting that you mention Abby and Coral Cliffs because they had this amazing fundraiser, and Abby's one of my dream guests on the podcast. I just have to get to Florida and make it happen.
Or make her come here.
Yeah, either way, Abby, are you listening?
Yeah.
And it was so amazing to watch that. And then there's also all of these other fundraising things going on. And it's like we're all being bombarded constantly with give money here, give money here, give money here. And the climbing community, maybe, whether right or wrong, has this I can't even think of the word. We look like dirtbags who never want to pay anything, like we all want the pro deal for shoes. We don't want to pay full price,
Yeah, I mean,
who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So trying to get climbers to give money has always felt like this kind of interesting proposition. But I saw it happening a lot. And then when your thing popped up originally, I was like, oh, this is cool. A climber working within the community, raising money for this thing that obviously is needed right now because people are paying us for training, paying other coaches for training. They can't go to the gym right now. And everyone's thinking about physical fitness, which might seem like this. I mean, we called it a luxury item in the beginning of this, but it's also mental health,
Totally.
and that's something that's sorely needed in a lot of cases. So it just felt really cool to see people making those things happen.
Yeah, I think that was another thing that was difficult to, bring it back to just the mental health piece. A lot of my clients were also so thankful that they were, already locked in, already knew what they were doing, knew the language, because it does take a second to work with a coach. Like, you need to learn the way that they speak or cue.
And the coach needs to learn each individual person.
Yeah. So they were also so thankful every time we were on virtually. that they got to still meet up, and already kind of had that locked into whether it's budgeting for it or scheduling, because it can be difficult to just even begin and to start and be consistent. But they already had that down pre-pandemic, so they were psyched to just honestly have the time to put into training. Because that was another huge thing that I saw. A lot of clients were the most consistent I've ever seen them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they had time. And it's such a weird thing to see, you saw people making bread and, doing whatever was
a lot
popular.
Of bread.
Yeah. And I mean, we were guilty too. We made bread, baked a lot, ran a lot. So people just did things that you wouldn't just stop to do. So yeah, I think, yes, training goes into that mental health, and I had to kind of switch my mindset because at first, the guilt came, then I tried to help, then the guilt came back.
Yeah.
And it's just like you go through these cycles almost.
Yeah, and we talked a lot in our first interview, the first time you were on the podcast. We talked a lot about identity and how your battle with cancer affected your identity as an athlete, as a track athlete, and then as a climber, and all of these women are experiencing the same thing with their cancer, but also with COVID at the same time. Like I've talked to so many climbers who are like, "Am I still a climber? I don't really know. I haven't climbed in this many months, and I don't know if my gym's opening back up. So am I still a climber? Am I still an athlete?" So not only do they have
Am I a baker?
the cancer, they have the cancer affecting their identity and how they feel, but also COVID. And then your program comes in at a time when a lot of people are struggling with, who am I? What am I? What's my worth? If I'm not that anymore.
Yeah, I think that it will be really helpful. I think 3 months is enough time to at least get women being consistent and hopefully give them the tools to, whether it's work out on their own or, because none of these women none of them are in Colorado, so are local to me.
Right.
I did have a few that were local, and it was so tempting, but I tried hard to do the financial need rather than just their story, which everyone's story was so heartfelt and awesome. And I had some athletes that applied, and of course, being an athlete, I wanted to choose the athlete immediately, but it also felt a little selfish at the same time for me to just go with that rather than just financial need. But in the future, I hope that I can just offer it to financial, and maybe it's a tiered system, so I haven't quite figured that out, but for now, I will continue to raise money, especially this next month, and I haven't quite decided how I want to do it, whether it's just going to be virtual classes or maybe some sort of program that goes straight to the grant program, but there will be something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you envisioning this as an ongoing grant program that just happens either, every 3 months or annually, or is it just a thing that's constantly ongoing? What's your vision here?
That's an awesome question.
If we can talk through those things.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good because I honestly get too excited about stuff, and my partner is to almost hold me back a little bit because I want to do everything at once. And I guess I'm super thankful for him because, he is in law school, so he's always trying to have everything, legal and almost so perfect that, sometimes it doesn't always have to be perfect.
Right. He's hyper rational.
Yes. But at the same time, I think it is good to talk about it. I think that I would like to do at least minimum once a year, and I think either November or October, just kind of leading up because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there are a lot of companies that do want to put forth and donate
Sure.
to that.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool, to also have it ongoing, to allow more women all the time to do it. But like I said, there were women that were still going through chemo and radiation, and they can't start training yet. So some of the women that I accepted into the grant program, I had their consultation and realized that I can't even start working with them for another 2 months.
Sure.
So it's going to kind of, it'll be spread out through the next 6 to 8 months, those 5 women that I chose. So I think starting off with maybe once or twice a year, so maybe 10 women a year might be a really good start. But yeah, we'll see. I would love to start a nonprofit, but the more that I've learned about it, it's a lot of work.
I like this thinking out loud thing,
Yeah.
The first time we talked, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I got the feeling that you were still kind of testing the waters in your head.
Yeah, I totally was.
And then it grew into this thing. And I think it's these kind of conversations that help, especially if you're willing to put them out to the world. And
well, it's accountability too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's so important to put those words out there, and then you've got people asking you about it. And,
yeah.
I heard this thing. What's going on?
Well, so I actually met this other woman who ended up she was so generous and just loved the story, and currently works at an oncologist company. And she then told me, Joss, if you were to make a nonprofit, you realize the company that I work for will actually match other people's donations. I didn't even know that companies did that. So to even learn that was a thing, kind of just opened up more doors, or ideas rather than doors. And so it kind of just got me thinking, maybe what could I do? Of course I got too excited. Went back to my partner, then said, hey, I'm going to start a nonprofit. He goes, no. You got to take a step back. Let's make, so we have this whiteboard that we then, put all these ideas out, and we started then looking at the legal side. How do you, break things down? What do you need to do? What are the next steps? Why would you even do this? What is insurance like? Why do people not even get this covered? So many different things.
Right.
And I realized I didn't even know enough about insurance.
Right.
So it's going to require a lot more work. So it could be another couple years, but I definitely won't stop. So
yeah, you're on the path.
Yeah.
So I'm glad for that. Let's talk details about your program and who it's for exactly, how it works, what they're getting from it. I know, we've talked about it a little, but if there are people out there listening who think, I would like to apply for this, or I know someone who I would like to, send this episode to because they should apply or something like that. Let's talk a little bit of the details that you currently know. I know it's still forming, but tell me about it. What's the application look like?
Yeah. So I actually have, and I'm just going to leave it on there. So people can apply, whether or not they get this round. I'm not throwing the applications away. I'm pretty much saving everyone's, and
got it.
Ideally it goes down the list, right? So the application is on social media. It's right on the link. And then I have multiple links, and one of them is the mastectomy application. So
and we'll have that in the show notes right there in your pocket supercomputers too. So,
and I do, and this is good that you're asking this, I do need to add it to my website too, just in case someone does go to the website and that's not on there. But I've had so many, I feel like there's so many women that already applied. I just needed to continue the grant program.
Sure.
So, I think people being very specific for the questions is helpful. I did, not going to lie, had a few women that applied that just said, this would be awesome.
Right.
That's it. And so with that type of answer, it doesn't really give me their story. And I have no background. This would be really great to get training after. I mean, I would, but that doesn't give me any background on you. So if you are applying, definitely give me more of a backstory and tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've definitely, Drew Mack and I did a scholarship program for one of our programs that we ran, and we had so many applicants with amazing stories that Drew and I were both on the phone like, oh my God, I wish I could have 10 more of these, And ultimately it did come down to the people who gave us the most in the application and who really explained their situation and explained why it would be good for them and what they would do with it and where they would take that in the future, know, and
pull at the heartstrings.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely give the more of your story.
Yes.
If this is something you really want to do.
Yeah. And if then, you feel like you need it. So tell me about it.
Yeah. And then what do these women, like what's the training with you look like start to finish? How do you see that going?
So it really, I always hate that I have to say this, it depends on the person because
it's a real answer.
Yeah, it does because, like I said, the woman who has had cancer and has to go through chemo and radiation and has had her lymph nodes removed is going to start from such a different place than the woman who has just had and not to say just because it's still such a process, but who has done it preventatively. Right. They're going to have a much quicker recovery.
Sure.
Or a woman who has had a double mastectomy and a hysterectomy. That is so emotional to then, you're not going to have kids anymore.
Right.
So I have not done that yet, but it is something that I do have to do, and it messes with your head. So especially being a woman. So
sure.
It really, it depends on where they are emotionally. A lot of, like, for example, one of my clients right now, sometimes we spend 20 minutes of the virtual session just kind of talking about stuff and how they're doing. And so it does become a little bit of life coach style. And then...
and that's why they're there with you.
Right. And then I have other ones that are more athletes and want to get straight to it, but I almost maybe have to hold them back just a little bit because I don't want them to get injured because, I was the same way going into it. I wanted to go, but there is a certain amount of time that you need to heal so nothing rips open again.
Right.
But after that, you're pretty good to go. And you may still have pain, but having someone like me know exactly how that felt, it's kind of nice to know that you can push through that pain.
Yeah.
So it goes back to...
you're going to have people who are afraid to give enough.
Yes, I was, yeah.
And especially if they re-injure something once, then they're going to hold back too much the next time. And having somebody who's gone through it and understands it is, that's the big important part of all of this, frankly. So
yeah, it was funny. I was listening to the 2 years ago one, and
God, has it been 2 years? Really?
Yeah, I couldn't even remember what we talked about, so I was like, I should listen to that again. And
I have very visceral memories of that conversation. Actually,
I didn't even realize I talked about certain things, and I had forgotten my mom was sitting
right
there. She was sitting right there. And I talked about having a labrum tear and so many things and certain things I didn't fix. And I realized I didn't remember certain injuries either. So, it's funny to look back a couple years and go, oh, wow, I still have that, but... it doesn't hurt anymore. So there is hope when you do have an injury, know that, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. And if you haven't, if you're just finding this podcast and this is the first time you've heard from Joss, you should go back and listen to that episode. And, her story is impressive. And I think there's a lot to learn from it, whether you're a cancer survivor or not. There's something you can pull there. And it's a great place to send people who may be in your life who are dealing with cancer in one way or another, and who are dealing with their identity, being threatened. It's a good conversation. So go back and listen to that. Where do you anticipate people? You said you have a website.
Yes.
People will be able to go there, apply. Is this going to be a thing where we can all donate money to? Is it going to be a drive that you're looking for, corporate backing? Have we talked to climbing companies, any of these things?
Yeah, so I didn't think about really going corporate until I had talked to this one woman that had donated money. I had just gotten coffee with her, and she started kind of telling me all about the ways a nonprofit could go. It is really difficult if you don't have a nonprofit to try to get large sums of donations, because
they want that tax write-off.
They want the tax write-off, exactly. Yeah. And so I realized it does just kind of, I think, have to come from individuals right now until maybe in the future. I do something a little bigger. Future would be sweet if there was also a PT that wanted to join, and, a massage therapist, all these services that women could also get, because you are a mess after. So it would be awesome to just get treated. I had actually...
Again, I like this thinking out loud thing here.
My hair lady, she actually is going to be giving hair advice or hair products to the 5 women that had one also. Cool. So it's just, you have such awesome people that come out of it. But yes, companies maybe in the future. For now, people will be able to just go to the GoFundMe link, and, I always just say, $5. If everyone gave $5 to whatever, nonprofit or thing there is out there, everything would be so successful. But, it is hard to make people not have the coffee or just give a couple dollars. So.
Money is a big stress for a lot of people.
Exactly, especially now.
Yeah, it's tough to... Yeah, I just did an episode with Mr. Clipping Chains. He runs the website Clipping Chains, which is financial independence for climbers. And money is this really taboo conversation, and it's a thing that causes a lot of stress when we start talking about it,
Yeah.
Which is too bad.
It is interesting, though, during this pandemic, I do think that people have come together more and helped each other out. And I do think that within climbing, there's such a community that if we can all, if there are 10 organizations that want money, even if you are giving $5, $10, it really isn't that much, Yeah. So maybe just taking a step back and thinking about it that way. And that's kind of what I've done too. So when I see something, I do try to just, give the $5, even though there's maybe 5 other things going on. It does feel like a lot, though, because now there's so much need for help with everyone. So
totally.
It can be hard to shuffle through.
Totally. Question for you, and this, I'm partly just curious if you've thought about this or if you've just been, I'm sure you have thought about it, but I know it's really easy to latch on to something that you're passionate and excited about and to run with it. There's no shortage of people who are making money in the fitness industry and doing pretty damn well. After our first conversation, when you were kind of testing the waters of working with women who'd had mastectomies and, survived cancer, why decide to really jump into that at this level?
That is an awesome question. I think it was really the woman who wanted training.
Yeah.
Because
she's the catalyst for the
she
whole
was.
thing.
I do have to thank her for it. And I mean, I listened back to the last podcast and I was so timid and said I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to even identify with mastectomy women anymore. I knew that I just wanted to focus on myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's been 2 years, over 2 years now. And I had done that. I had focused on myself. I had climbed my first 9, for bouldering. And you get to a certain point, I think, in climbing that, or at least I did, where I felt like, okay, what am I doing this for anymore?
Right.
So the timing was perfect. I think also that she had reached out about training because I was in a place that I felt mentally and physically healed. So I felt that I could then give back. And I had not really had any mastectomy clients previously. It had only been maybe a few, which was awesome to work with, but some of them didn't last and I didn't hear back from them.
Yeah.
So this has been awesome, and it's really driven a very certain type of personality too, and women who have a goal too, which is always amazing for a coach when someone has a specific goal, because then you know the steps to get there rather than I just want to be fit. I want to climb harder, So, she definitely was a catalyst.
Yeah, and it sounds like it gave you some purpose.
For sure.
That maybe you've been searching for.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I think I was a little lost before. And if you listen back to the last podcast, I was just going through so much identity shifting. So, I feel like I can now say that I help women with mastectomies, but, I'm still training, other elite climbers and getting to work with, kids like Colin at Team ABC. And, I think I didn't feel like it was enough to just work with climbers. And this is, my opinion of it, but, you get some people that they just want to climb harder. They want to get to the grade. And I don't know. I was in that spot within running, and for what?
Right.
What are you doing this for? You know, people get such in their head about climbing harder, or there's just, especially with the pandemic, there is so much more to the world. And I don't know. She came into the picture and had this thing that she needed, and I was ready. So, yeah.
Boy, you were just about to open up a whole new conversation that could go for like 4.5 hours that I think a lot of us have been struggling with, trying to come to terms with. I've talked to so many people who just don't know where they stand right now.
Yeah, it's hard right now.
Yeah, and so I'm just learning about your grant program and these ideas that you have, and I love the idea of helping pull the ideas out of your head. And I'm 100% fine with getting you more excited about something, even if your partner is going to go, "Whoa, hold on, let's talk about that."
Yeah.
Because I think it's important, and I think that you're the type of dynamic woman who can do it. So I'm going to keep holding you accountable to some degree. What else about the grant program? What don't I even know to ask about?
Honestly, I think the biggest things are describe why you think, honestly, you deserve it. Why, obviously, I think everyone deserves it, but give me a little bit more of a description. I did want it to just get to more ears about even donating to the grant program. I'll probably, be all over it in October, trying to raise a little bit more, because I think I just need enough for 4 more women now. So it would be awesome to be able to do that by the end of October. So I'll definitely try to have certain goals to hit.
Are we able to say roughly what the cost is per woman? Like what are you looking for per woman?
So let's see. I would actually have to calculate it a little bit. So I kind of just based it off of what my training costs for online.
Yeah. And especially now that you have a better idea of what it looks like to work with these women.
It's about $750 per woman for 3 months of training. So, which is not an insane amount.
No, not at all.
So, and then that gets them to whether they just came out of radiation and they're, cleared. And the key is that they're cleared to be able to train, and getting their confidence back. I was just, talking with my partner about this as we drove here. If someone was doing what I'm doing when I was, take me back 2-3 years ago, I would have paid for it.
Absolutely.
To get it. Yeah. I reached out to so many people to try and figure out how long and when I would be able to be back to where I was. And everyone just said, be patient. Yeah. And that is one of the most frustrating things for an athlete to hear.
Yeah. I don't know many patient athletes.
Yeah. So I think that there is truth to that, but there is also little timelines. And I think that's what it's about, is creating the little timelines rather than just saying be patient. So, I think that me having gone through it is really what is key, and knowing what it's felt like, because even PTs that I had gone to after, would ask me, how does it feel? Right. They had no idea. So there is a little bit to that too.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and we'll have, I assume by the time people are hearing this, you'll have a place where people can go and donate. You'll have the applications up on your website, and I'll have links to both of those things right in the show notes. We'll be promoting it on our Instagram too, and all the places. I think it's important. And, from like my own kind of selfish place that I sit over here in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and kind of look at the climbing community. It's something I've been involved with for 20 plus years. And it's so cool to watch people building their own businesses and becoming people who not only are making a living within the climbing industry, but also helping other people who are in the climbing industry. And from my perspective, there can't be enough of that. I'm happy that I can help get the word out about other people's endeavors, whatever it is that they're trying to build. And it makes me so happy to see yours coming from this place where I sat down with you and your mom and talked through the identity of who am I now, where do I want to go, to now there's this mission. You've got this purpose.
It feels like it's still just the beginning, but and that's kind of, why I wanted to talk to you again, just to let people know and have more people hear about it, and that accountability. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for driving all the way out here.
Yeah.
And for doing this. One of the things I just absolutely fucking love about doing this podcast is that I get to sit down across from people and have real conversations that frankly just can't happen nearly as well. They don't flow as well. They don't feel right over the phone or over Zoom or something like that. And I feel like, we haven't had any, we've never climbed together, really.
No.
There haven't been other instances where we're hanging out. We just have seen each other now and then. We've done a little work together in the past, but we got to sit down and have this amazing hour-plus long conversation.
Yeah.
And it creates these relationships that are important. So
yeah, no, I think it goes back to the community. Everyone has this mutual love, and you can just go based off of that.
Yeah, and even more so now, in a time when we don't get to sit across from people and have conversations nearly as often as we may once have been able to do.
Exactly.
It means a ton to see faces and to see smiles and see tears well up and to see all of those things happening when I get to talk to incredible people. So
Yeah.
So thanks for coming out here.
No, thank you.
Yep. The mission of what Power Company Climbing has changed. It's being remolded into something entirely different, and you'll all be seeing that over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, as long as we're around. And I appreciate so much the other coaches and businesses in this space, in this industry, who really want to make a difference, who want to strengthen this community, not just physically. Joss is a great example of that, and she's taken her experience and is now passing on the knowledge that she gained, the strength that she gained, mental, emotional, physical. She's passing that on to other women who are having similar experiences. And like I said, I'm happy to be able to help with that, and I'm so excited to watch this thing grow. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You all know what to do. There are links right there in your pocket supercomputers to help Joss on this mission. It's a rolling fund. So once she meets the goal, doesn't matter. Keep donating. Keep helping. That's just going to allow more women to train with Joss, to find their identities as athletes again. So thank you a ton for helping out with that. Thank you, Joss, for coming up and talking to me again. So happy to be able to help with this. You can find Joss online at Body en Route, BODYENROUTE, route, however you say it. I use both. I go back and forth. I don't know which is right. But you can find Joss there. You know how to spell it. Get there. You can also click those links in your Pocket Supercomputer show notes. You can find us at powercompanyclimbing.com. You can find us on the Instagram and on the Facebook at Power Company Climbing. You should absolutely share this GoFundMe on your Twitters. We will not be there to press the like button or I don't even know what's on there, because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
It's time to